Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. This is Wilbert Mukori. This is a program just to chat on recent events. Today, I wanted to talk about Hopewell Chin'ono's Twitter comment, where he was reminding the readers that when Chamisa was appointed ITC Minister during the GNU 2008 to 2013, he was able to reduce the price of the SIM cards from 200 US dollars to 50 US cents within a month of being appointed. That is pretty impressive, isn't it? But I want, what I wanted to remind people here is that um, our friend Hopewell Chin'ono is making this comment with a backdrop of increasing pressure on particularly Chamisa and his Triple C party uh, to stop participating in these elections without meaningful reforms. This is very important. We have had so many elections in Zimbabwe, in fact, since independence, and they've all been rigged. And we know that 2018 elections were rigged. In fact, only last week on Friday, the the House of Lords here in the UK debated that very issue, and one of the speakers categorically said, "What chance is there of Zimbabwe holding the 2023 elections being free, fair, and credible?" That was very helpful because it helped to put this issue of free, fair, and credible elections back on the national agenda. And people were still talking about it. That debate, the video itself, was widely circulated, and a number of internet media houses quoted that discussion. It is a discussion of great importance. We can't keep on participating in elections, and then when the results come, we claim they were rigged. We know they are going to be rigged. Zanu PF has been rigging these elections all along. So the question then is, why are we keeping on participating in these elections when we know they're going to be rigged? What was the real purpose of Hopewell Chin'ono's comment, reminding us of how impressive Chamisa was when he was minister during the GNU? Clearly, it was meant to give the impression that no, Chamisa is doing the right thing, and we must follow him, particularly. And we know that Chamisa and his friends in Triple C are hell bent on participating in these elections without reforms. That is where the problem is here. What Hopewell Chin'ono failed to say as well is that the whole MDC the sorry, got the wrong one there. Need that one. sorry. Yeah. What Hopewell Chin'ono failed to say is that Chamisa and the whole MDC family, that's one prime minister, two deputy prime ministers, 26 plus ministers and deputy ministers, 110 MPs and senators, they all failed to implement even one meaningful democratic reform in 5 years of the GNU. If Chamisa's uh, ability to reduce the price of the SIM card from $200 to 50 cents in 1 month was impressive, well, what about this? The whole family of MDC failed to implement even one democratic reform in 5 years. And we should not forget here that the primary purpose of the 2008 to 2013 GNU was to implement the democratic reforms so that we restore the democratic rights of every citizen in Zimbabwe. The democratic freedoms, the democratic rights, including the right to a meaningful say in the governance of the country. That was the primary purpose. The fact that they failed to implement even one reform meant at the end of the GNU in 2013, Zanu PF was able to rig those elections and get back into power. And so we are back to where we started. SADC. Yes, I'll be the first one to put up my hands and say SADC could have done a better job during the GNU. But what we cannot also deny is that SADC did try to get MDC leaders to implement the reforms. And they failed. One of the Zanu PF cronies I spoke to during the GNU was boasting, and you could tell this was a common subject among the Zanu PF cronies. He was boasting that Mazwane MDC Azizakujanyerere, which literally means MDC leaders have learned to enjoy the good life of the gravy train system in Zimbabwe. And they will never rock the boat, i.e., they will never implement any reforms. And lo and behold, that is exactly what happened. 5 years of GNU, and they failed to implement even one reform. That is what put us in this situation. SADC leaders did make a last-minute attempt to get the reforms implemented, but they failed. They advised Morgan Tsvangirai and his friends that they should not participate in the 2013 elections without reforms, and their advice fell on deaf ears. What this discussion in the House of Lords was trying to do is to remind everybody again, but we cannot keep on participating in these meaningless elections when we know Zanu PF is rigging these elections. And it is clear that Zanu PF is going to rig these 2023 elections. So one has got to come back to our friend Hopewell Chin'ono. What was it really trying to achieve here? Now, I can understand somebody in the Zimbabwe's rural backwaters not understanding what the GNU was about, that MDC leaders sold out by failing to implement any reforms, and that by participating in these flawed elections, they are only helping to perpetuate the Zanu PF dictatorship. I can understand that, somebody in the rural backwaters. But I can tell you that our friend Hopewell Chin'ono is too smart not to know that. Of course, he must be aware of it. He knows the MDC leaders failed to implement reforms. He knows that by participating in these flawed elections, they're only helping to perpetuate Zanu PF rule. So why is he willing to sing Chamisa's praises of what he did as the ICT minister, but is completely silent on the key points that MDC not only failed to implement reforms, but have been participating to maintain Zanu PF in power, and is determined to participate in 2023. In fact, the praises that Hopewell Chin'ono is giving here is meant to assure the ordinary the Triple C supporter and ordinary Zimbabwean supporter, the member of the public out there, that participating is the right thing. Participating in these flawed elections is the wrong thing. We can't keep on repeating the same mistake over and over again and expecting a different result. After 42 years of rigged elections, we cannot afford to have yet another rigged elections, which, long behold, when the results are announced, Chamisa and company will turn around and say, oh, they were rigged. But you knew it all along. You participated knowing that the whole electoral process is flawed. Zanu PF is stepping up on the violence. The rigging machine itself is well oiled. These elections will be rigged, and we cannot afford to participate in them and give Zanu PF legitimacy. The pressure here is to make sure we cannot stop Zanu PF going ahead with elections. It's too late now. I accept that. And it looks like, thanks to our friend Hopewell Chin'ono and others who are encouraging Chamisa and company to participate in these elections, we are not going to stop our friends in Triple C participating in these elections, flawed as they are. But what we can do is making sure that everybody knows that this whole process is flawed and illegitimate. And the result should be condemned for what it is, a flawed process. Zanu PF should not get legitimacy in 2023. That point must be made again and again and hammered in the thick heads of our friends like Hopewell Chin'ono, Nelson Chamisa, and his friends. They must know these elections are being condemned now before they even take place. Because there is no way you can tell me these elections are going to be free, fair, and credible. There is no verified voters roll. Zanu PF has already edited who can vote by deciding unilaterally, without any due process at all, that Zimbabweans in the diaspora, 3 million of them by their own account, will be denied the vote. Why? Because the West must lift the sanctions imposed on Zanu PF. What has that got to do with the people in the diaspora? The ordinary black Zimbabwean in the diaspora. They did not have anything to do with the imposition of the sanctions. So why is 3 million Zimbabweans being punished? The main reason, of course, is that Zanu PF knows the chances are that the 3 million Zimbabweans in the diaspora will not vote for Zanu PF. They are there, most of them, as political or economic refugees. And of course, they blame Zanu PF for their plight. And they're not likely to vote for Zanu PF then. And if the voting was to be done in those distant lands where they are, Zanu PF will have very little chance of rigging that process. And this is the real reason why Zanu PF was never going to grant the diaspora vote. What kind of election is it when 3 million, and remember, Mnangagwa won the 2018 elections with 2.4 million by SAC's own account. So more people are being denied vote than those who voted for Mnangagwa in 2018. The point must be made, and the point will be made and will be made repeatedly. Zanu PF is rigging 2023 elections. Without reform, this is a flawed and utterly meaningless process. And Zimbabweans, we can help to make sure that Zanu PF does not get legitimacy by making it abundantly clear that we are not participating in this flawed and meaningless process. Thank you very much, and good night.